if you do not have Illustrator, and you will not be getting Illustrator, you cannot get it because you're not in the vector class or what have you, here is one of the options that's available out there that is at least marginally free. It's called Gravit Designer. It is a vector-based tool. You have to basically give them your email address and a name and a password, and they'll let you have an account for a free version of the software. They have a paid version that has slightly more features, but I'm not even beginning to look at that one because I don't have it. I'm not paying for it when I have Illustrator. I'm going to use the free version. And I was going to talk you through doing the assignments for Module 8 that you'll need a vector-based tool for. I have gone in and done the account part, and I've got the software running. It's running online, so you would have to have online some sort of internet access. But beyond that, you should be pretty much okay to move forward. I'm going to close this delightful extra window, and I'm going to talk you through the online instructions, meaning the ones in Blackboard. Let's see, where is it? It's going to look like this. This lists some techniques more specific to Illustrator, but your final product is going to look pretty similar to what you see at the top here. So know that we're going for a similar size, but our steps may be slightly different, and our end product hopefully will look a lot like this. All right, so a couple things. Once you actually get into the program, you're going to be clicking on New Design. Don't make sure you're not doing the paid version because we don't need that. And then once you've done that, we're going to click on what size. So paper size is going to be fine. There's lots of paper in the world, so you're going to be going down the list to US letter, either portrait or landscape will be fine, and then you get your window open. The tool, if you have used Illustrator before, has some overlap. They are different enough, and I'm not totally crazy about this, but it's a free tool and it'll allow us to get some stuff done, so for that I'm grateful. Along the top, we're going to have the tools that we're principally working with for this one, and specifically that's going to be our ellipse. To do a circle, we are going to hold down our Shift key, and we're going to try to create a circle that's somewhere in the ballpark of 5 inches. I've got my, I'm looking in the upper right hand section of this screen to figure out what size this is, and I'm just a little bit over 5. I can always, okay, I managed to get right at it. So I've got a 5-inch circle here. I'm going to release the mouse first. I've got my Shift key held down because I wanted to make sure it was proportional. I did need it to be a circle. And then once I've done that, I am going to grab the ellipse tool again, and I am going to hover until I'm in the center of my first circle. And once I'm there, I'm doing Shift and Option or Alt to create the center. I've got my center circle. Now, one thing that I've noticed about the Gravit Designer is even if the shape is still there, it's really easy for you to visually lose it. The borders don't show up terribly well. So as soon as I've created that center circle, I am going to change the fill of either the inner or the outer, it doesn't matter, to something else. My center circle was selected, so it was easier one to do, and now I can tell at least that I have 2 separate shapes. The other way I can tell I have 2 shapes is on the left. It shows up as ellipse, ellipse. By the way, just real quickly, if you're just grabbing the ellipse tool with no modifier, it's going to draw it from the edge. For both of the ones I just drew, I did Shift and Alt or Option, which allows you to do them from the center out, and that becomes important for some of this elliptical stuff we are working on. All right, I have both of my circles in place. If yours were both circular but not aligned, like you just didn't draw the other one in the center, you'd select both of them. I've got the black arrow here. I've dragged over so that both of them are arranged or selected. And along this section to the right, I have alignment options. So I'm going to align the horizontal and the vertical centers so that they are concentric, because that's going to be important for the next part. All right, so I've got them like this. I'm now going to use the center circle to punch a hole in the outer circle, because ultimately that's what I need. So I've got them both selected at the same time, I'm going to come up to the top where you see the sort of overlapping circles. I'm sorry, they're rectangles. Overlapping rectangles that sort of look like they're merged. That's the compound shape area of the Gravit palette. If you've used Illustrator, you'll notice that there are some items that are similar to Pathfinder, but not all of them. So what we're going to do, since my small circle is on top of my larger one, is we're just going to use the subtract option. And we end up with a donut, and the donut is what I wanted. So it's a gray donut. If the gray bothers you, you can absolutely pick a different color for it. It's fine for what we're doing, but we end up with this gray donut shape. Now, I'm going to select the gray donut. I'm going to come up to the top, and I'm going to grab the thing that looks like a knife, and it is in fact a knife tool. And this I'm going to use to slice this thing into the shapes that I need. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be quite like the polar grid that's referenced in the instructions, but it'll get us close enough to where we need to go. Now, keep in mind and play around with this. It cuts from the left-hand edge. If you hold the Shift key down, it locks the knife slices into a little bit more of a straight line kind of deal. And I'm going to go across and divide it vertically, and then I divide it horizontally. So now I have 4 sections, and I need to cut each one of the 4 into 3. So don't cut down the middle of each one of those quarters, because you need thirds of those, not quarters. And do the best you can. That's a pretty horrible cut in my case. So I did a quick undo, and it's going to be more, I'm just starting a little bit too far. There we go. That seems better. So something like that. And then, as you can tell, mine are not perfect. And so I now have those 2 quadrants divided up, but I need to do the diagonal that's running in the opposite direction. It deselected basically, so I'm going to have to grab the black arrow. I'm going to select both of those at the same time, the right and upper right and bottom left quadrants. I'm going to grab the knife tool again and cut that into thirds as well. Again, not perfect. Mine is far from perfect, but I have the slices. And now that I've got all of those pieces, I can select everything, becoming obvious how not even they are. You'll see that I have a variety of paths on the left where previously I had ellipses, and then the compound shape, because each one of these is its own path area. And from here, I can increase the border size if you find it a little hard to tell where yours are stopping and starting. Give it like a 3 on the border, and it'll definitely show up then. And now I'll go through and I'm going to pick my colors. So the rule for the colors is that they need to be logical. I'm going to show you what you can't do and then what you can. All of these are going to end up having a color in them. So if I start with red, for example, and I decide that I want to make this one green, which truthfully isn't a good position for the green, but for the sake of argument, we're going to go with that. And then I'll make this one, I don't know, let's make it orange, and I'll make this one purple. These are impossible colors that I've got here. Red plus green will not and cannot ever make purple. Red plus green cannot ever make orange. So the ones that are falling in between here make no logical sense. Even if your colors don't match the ones exactly in the original, the color logic still has to work. So you cannot do what I've just done here. Now you could, if you were so inclined, go with something like blue, and red plus blue will make purple and things in between red and purple along the way. And this one probably needs to be a little bit more blue. And then this one can be more of a true purple. And then that section, even though it doesn't exactly match what the original had in there, is logically color-wise, or logical color-wise. And I would just continue on doing the remainder of the colors, again, in a logical manner. So red plus yellow is going to give me orangey things in between. Blue and yellow are going to give me green things in between. I know I just touched yellow and said blue, but anyway, you get the idea. So just keep that in mind. And the other thing, the other pet peeve I have a little bit about this is that occasionally I'll get somebody that does like a really yellow orange. right by the red and vice versa, and they're not thinking through where. It's really not the most fun color picker I've ever had, but the closer it gets to red, the more red the orange should be. The closer it gets to yellow, the more yellow the orange should be, and so forth. So for me, I'm finding it a little easier to pick the color on the bottom and then tweak it with the in-between using this particular utility. And that one probably can be just the plain old orange. Okay, so I'm not done yet with all of my colors, but you're seeing how they come together and the basic logic that you're going to need for this one. When you're done, you are going to save your file. It is going to allow you to save it to a folder, which is an online, obviously, save area. But we also need a version of this that will be submitted electronically. So let me see. Oops. Okay, so I've saved this to their online space. I want to see what my export options are. So I'm going to do share file, and it's thinking about it for a while. All right. Yes. Oh, okay. It just saved it down to my computer. There's a make exportable function down here. That's very important. And down at the bottom, we have PNG, we have JPEG, and we have SVG, and we have PDF. PDF is the option you want to go with. So it's doing the PDF option, and then I'm going to click on export. I realize it's a little cumbersome to get it out of here, but at the end of the day, we are able to do that, and that's important. The share did not work on mine, and it would have just saved in a Gravit format. I do need it in this PDF, so that was in the bottom left that came up on mine. And mine is very helpfully called page 1. If yours is, just be aware, it might be helpful if you rename it, but it is exported as a PDF, and that's what it looks like in PDF format, so that works pretty well.